JJ Parker. This podcast is for seekers, seekers of happiness and joy, seekers of a centered approach to success in life, seekers of their true, authentic selves.
Hey, JJ, do you remember a couple years ago whenever you would get like really, really busy at work or major project and you'd go into like this cyclone mode? I mean that in the most loving and productive ways, of course. And you just get a ton of stuff done in this little period of time. And then you would literally disappear off the face of the earth for like 3 or 4 days. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that was kind of like my pattern. I'd do like really high output, and then I would just like kind of do nothing for a little bit.
You'd completely check out, and you would do like you'd go skiing or you'd go climbing. You literally would check out of work. So you would you didn't answer emails, you didn't answer texts, like you went straight up dark. Remember that?
Yeah, it doesn't. That sounds really more dramatic than I remember it being. Like you went completely dark.
No,
you went in a hole.
Give yourself the permission to recharge. Is what I'm getting at.
That might be.
Does that sound nicer?
That sounds nicer. It makes me sound like I was ignoring people.
Oh, well, you
on purpose. Did. Well, I actually did. I just kind of did. Yeah,
and not in a bad way. It was just like. I would think to myself, well, okay, I thought 2 things. The first thing I would think is like, oh my gosh, he's ignoring me. And then I would think, God, I wish I could be a little more like that. I would feel sort of like, that's like a superpower to be able to just turn off from stuff, like business stuff, and just really chill out, right? Okay. So the reason I'm bringing all this up now, I know I can just tell by your voice. You're like, okay, this is an ambush. I can feel it.
We should have. This should be a video one because I'm already squirmy in my chair.
You are. You're spinning back and forth and back and forth. I can see it. So I have noticed that you have been in vortex mode, like spinny mode, for about 6 months or longer.
Yeah.
And I've also noticed that you are really working on the weekends, like nonstop. And then you're telling me the story about how productive you're being on the weekends. I don't remember the last time that you have checked out where you just literally went dark. And I also noticed like 2 weeks ago, you have like serious bags under your eyes.
Yeah.
Sorry. I don't mean it. I just feel like I'm coming alongside of you, and maybe it sounds like I'm not, but I really, really am. Like you're super, super tired.
I thought that was just a sign of like old age.
Yeah, actually, I think you did say something about that.
Yeah, like I turned 45 and then I'm like, now I'm tired. Well, I can tell you, and I don't think I've been super complaining about it, but I think I've been mentioning that like, I have been tired for quite a few months in a row. Like just tired. And not even because I haven't been getting sleep. I've been sleeping like maybe 8, 9, 10 hours a night. Like totally good sleep. Like straight through the night. But during the day, I'm still like, I am just drained of energy.
Yeah, exactly. And the last couple of weeks, and yes, you have been for a while, but the last couple of weeks, I've really noticed it. Because like when we do our stuff, it's usually, we have one meeting that we have in the middle of the day and 11 o'clock. That's the middle of our day. And usually both of us are like in full go mode at 11 o'clock. Like that's halfway through our day. We're going to be winding down in an hour, right? Like we start early. But even at 11 o'clock, your whole body language and everything is like,
Yeah, I'm like almost done for the day at that point.
Yeah. And it seems like you like, even though you want to be focusing and focused, you just feel like, I can't do it. So then I started reflecting, and I think I even said something to you like, hey, are you sick? Or like, you okay? And you're like,
Yeah, you told me to go to the doctor.
yeah. Okay, and I told you to go. I know it sounds like a grandma.
You're like, maybe shouldn't you go to the doctor if you've been really tired for a while? I'm like, yeah, I don't know.
And you're like, I haven't had COVID. I know it's not COVID. I've taken 75 tests. I took a I've taken tests. And so then I said, well, maybe you should just like go and get a white blood cell count to see if you have like some kind of infection. And you said, which is such a guy thing, you said, can you do that at the Target Minute Clinic? I said, I don't think so. And then you basically, I could see that the door shut.
I'm not doing that.
I heard a small click and it was your door shutting to any idea that I was going to offer after that.
Yeah.
So as I've been reflecting on this, isn't it interesting that you and I are always talking about the balance, right? Like the balance of work, the balance of play, you know, having self-awareness. And we're really working on this within ourselves all the time. And yet I kind of feel like we missed this one.
This is like the quarterly JJ's Wrapped Around the Axle podcast where we talk about how I'm like not really like doing things in my own best interest or mental health.
Well, you know, I'm here for you.
Thank you. And then we just discuss live what's going on.
Your deeper issues.
Well, I would say though, like we've done some podcasts where I have been the subject of the podcast, and it has been about how I'm like generally about how I'm working too much, or I'm not taking time off, or
not taking care of yourself.
or somehow you know, wrapped around the axle in some other way.
Yeah.
This one to me is like a little different to me because it's been so sustained for so many months.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean? Like, and it's not true I didn't do anything. Like we went on Christmas vacation, but that was with the whole family. That was still a lot of work.
Mm-hmm. That was a trip. Remember when?
And I've taken a couple little things off, but they haven't been like maybe my normal like solitude kind of trips that I've taken in the past.
Because even like the last time you went climbing, you did work around it.
Yeah.
Right. So now there's, you know, this isn't like this actually, even though I'm making a little fun and, you know, trying to keep it a little lighthearted, this isn't like a judgment thing. It's actually just noticing there's like, that's different for you. And I actually wonder if that has a lot more to do with why you're so tired. Not because of a physical illness, but you're just wiped out.
So you're proposing that I'm tired because I haven't been giving myself any sort of recharge time.
Yeah. And you have somehow convinced yourself that you don't need it. Because otherwise you'd be doing it.
All right. Podcast over.
Wow,
Thanks for your input.
That was awesome. That was only like 8 minutes. Look at the time. I know. Remember, I always tell you, like, there's been a couple of times when we talk about my stuff, and I feel like whenever we do some kind of like issue processing with me, it always has something to do with my childhood or when I was younger or whatever. And every time, I'm just like going to say, it feels like being on the hot seat.
Issue process. I like the way you phrase these episodes. These are JJ or Melissa issue processing episodes.
Well, hey, in our Vistage groups, that's what we always call it, right? It's like if there's a major business challenge, it's an issue process, and maybe that just came from that. But I know it's kind of hard, but I always like have so much, I just have a lot of respect for how you can just walk into this conversation in this public format. And whenever it's my turn, I sweat.
Oh, thank you.
And I feel so scared about what's going to be said. So
it's good. I'm not dodging, obviously.
Okay.
It's good to try to figure this stuff out.
Yeah.
So when I'm thinking about this, I am like legitimately sort of concerned about why I've been so tired lately.
Yeah, I know.
Like it's not sustainable.
Right.
It's been quite a while and it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
Right. And I feel like it's going to lead to probably some like worse problems. Right.
Yeah.
Until I figure it out.
Maybe not even like projecting, but just trying to get to the root of it. Yeah.
But the thing is, I think this is probably like the story for everyone who might feel this same way, right? Like I just feel that I've got I've got so many projects going.
Yeah.
I got so much workload happening. I've got so many things happening that I don't think I can take the kind of time that I used to, and not work on them. Like if I'm not pushing all of this stuff forward all the time, I feel like something will be dropped or something will get delayed, or like my team is relying on me to like keep the speed up. And I would say one other difference in the past, certainly 6 months to a year, the speed at my companies is way faster than it had been in the past. Like classically, like we were a bit more laid back.
Yes, I know. Yeah.
Right. But we've kind of have some new goals. We've got a bunch of new people, right? And they are definitely changing the pace that we are moving. And like, I don't know, maybe like I'm struggling to keep up at that pace, at that new pace, or there's something happening there with like the new pace of work.
Yeah, that's interesting. And just the way that you phrase that, regardless of what your title at that place is, it felt like you were putting a lot of your own value and worth if you could do the same thing you always have in a bigger environment that's moving faster. It's almost like you forgot the universe has your back.
Okay, you have to explain that in a different way to me because I didn't quite get it.
Which one?
What do you mean? What do you mean? Like my title? Like do that whole thing again. I didn't get it.
So yeah, I think just in how it felt when you explain that is a very logical explanation that could easily make sense, and then that could be end of story. It's like, yeah, well, this is why, but why isn't really maybe the biggest concern. The biggest concern is that really true? What do you have to be in that? Is it really true that you have to try to keep up, or you have to continually, I don't know. It's just like an adjustment period. I feel like you're in this adjustment period, and taking on a lot of water yourself, which I get. Like me, the queen of taking on too much.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, right. This is the thing that happens where like the things I coach my team on are the things that I actually don't do myself.
I think so many of us are like that. Oh,
right.
So many
so,
of us
like,
are like
why
that.
is that? Like I was literally telling our creative director, because she was kind of like moving into like a more manager role, and she was struggling with like the individual output problem. Like she used to be a high individual contributor. Now she's managing more of a team. She feels less productive.
Yeah.
Right. When in fact, she's making her team far more productive than she could have been on her own.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think that's also a paradigm shift in how we create our own self-worth.
Yeah.
And especially when you are in a leadership role or you have responsibility for other people, there is a natural way. And like, to answer your question, you're like, why do I always see in my team what I need to be working on? Well, that is like the universal human condition. We see in other people who we are. You can't see something in someone else unless you too possess it. Right. So when you're feeling a certain way, you look for substantiating evidence everywhere. And it's usually your people doing the exact same thing. So that's the interesting thing, right? It's like everybody's going so fast. Everybody's like piling in. Everybody's doing this. They're working more. They're talking more. They're making more plans. They're, pushing these things. But the truth of the matter is that there is a gestation period and a flow for everything.
Yeah.
And we forget that because we get excited. You know, I mean, it's kind of fun to co-create, which is great, but there's a tipping point where co-creation no longer feels good, where then it becomes an obligation.
Okay, so that's maybe one bit of it.
Yeah.
Just the way I'm engaging with work. The other thing I always think about, is like, I mean, and you talk about it, but I don't really know how to like access this part, like maybe like this part of me is like, we read like, well, like The War of Art, like my favorite book, right?
Yeah.
It talks about like how when you're not doing the thing you're supposed to be doing, right, that can cause a lot of like huge side effects, right?
Yeah.
Mental and physical side effects. So one of the things that I was wondering is like, am I not doing what I'm supposed to be doing right now? And that's somehow causing me like this energy suck.
That's interesting.
What do you think of that?
Well, I would say to you that if something like that comes up for you, there is probably something that you're ignoring. Why else would it come to you? If it was like an intuition piece, like if it was this little niggling, then it's probably just something, not in judgment, but just for you to pay attention to. It's like, you know, like what would that be, do you think? Like what would be options?
I don't know. So I was asking
funny.
you.
Well, I was just had breakfast with one of our mutual friends this morning, and I was saying to him, he's in his 60s and works all the time, and you know, he's really good at his job, but he works all the time. And I said, I have a funny question. And he said, what? And I said, what are you spending time on when you're not working? And you know what he said?
He says, I'm never not working.
No, what he said is, oh, that is a funny question. He totally deflected. And then I went, ha, ha, ha. That is a funny question. So let me ask it again.
Yeah.
And then he said, I don't do anything else besides work.
Yeah.
And he felt, I could tell by that it left him feeling like something was missing. Right? And I just think we just have to be with ourselves, even though we go through these periods of work. And I think too, like the pandemic has made it really hard. And we always have been talking about that the last couple of years. And we try to put it in these little logical conversations in boxes. But the truth is, it's like everything's been different. You know, it used to be easier to have a place to think about this, a place to go do that, a place to be, you know, I'm going to go play tennis here. I'm going to, you know, whatever. I'm going to go do yoga at the studio. And that's when I do these things. We don't have those options like we used to. And it has forced us to be creative, which we all have. But I don't know. Maybe that's part of it. Maybe we just get worn down and start slipping into some of these ways because it feels easier and it feels like we're in partnership with other people more. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I'd say like I have kind of this like maybe work. I'm kind of like almost blaming work for my low energy condition, but it's probably not just isolated to work, right? It's like more than that. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I think it's worth thinking about for all of us, because I think a lot of times if we feel tired, oftentimes we feel unproductive. And if we feel unproductive, we feel unworthy. There it is. Like that's, and then we start thinking, oh, I can't be like that for all of these logical 72 reasons. And then we feel bad because we're ignoring just that little part of who we really are that says, don't forget about me. Don't forget about me. So
you're recommending that I just like knock off and go snowboarding by myself in the mountains for like a week.
Yeah, well,
that's what I heard. I'll go try to sell that one to Melissa said that I had to go snowboarding by myself.
Yeah, well, your partner in crime might send me a text back and say, "Such a good idea, thank you so much." Yeah, I don't know.
Well, there's a couple of things that we talked about that everyone can probably be mindful of from this example here, and that I will also try to be mindful of. Is I think you said it was like this, like what kind of like pattern or cycle did you have before? And maybe you've gotten away from it, right? Like maybe something was working before. You've changed it. You've changed the behavior and the habits, Now it's not working. Try to remember what that was, right? I clearly even forgot that I would kind of go dark for a while after big projects.
Really?
Like I didn't until you said it, I didn't remember that.
Oh, do you know what? I actually knew so much that you were going to do it that I was making mental checklists to say like, okay, like when we were in the thick of choreology, we had to take a lot of breaks because it was a lot. And I remember taking mental checklists like, okay, what do I need from him? Because at some point pretty quick, he's going to need a couple of days.
He'll be gone for a bit.
But I did.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I never even remembered that I did that until just now.
Yeah. So it's kind of like the idea, like an analogy to this would be like you're running a marathon, or if you just even less than that, right? You're just like, you're in a running race.
Yeah. You're running.
But you can't run forever. Yeah. Like no human can run forever. Yeah. Like you have to take a break. Right? Right. And so your natural cadence of when those breaks are, should think about, right? Yeah. And if you're missing those breaks and you just try to attempt to keep running, you're just going to get more and more tired until you collapse.
The other thing is too, I think we fight against what our intuition, our inner being, what we really need. We fight against that because we feel like, oh, it doesn't really know. Or, oh, yeah, I know I should. And it may not even be running hard. It may be the opposite. You may be forced into quiet right now. It could be even that. It's just any kind of major shift externally, I think, causes everyone a big, huge pause. And so many times we stop listening to what we know our systems are telling us we need. You know, like it could be something as stupid as you need more protein. You know, you need to eat a steak once in a while because your body needs that. It's like, you may need to spend time with a particular friend that energetically you feel safe with and it makes you feel good. Like you may energetically sense time needed alone or more space than normal because you're in some kind of energetic transition that's taking more from you. It's just, we already are fully resourced to know what we need. We just stop listening for some reason. And then we try to make it okay by telling ourselves these stories about why we're doing it.
Yeah, like our brain wants to make up a reason. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then when that takes over, that causes a ruckus.
Yeah. I got the funniest visual this morning when I was asking our friend, like, well, what do you think about, what do you spend time thinking about when you're not working? And he's like, nothing. And I got this funny visual of our whole being trying to get stuffed into from the neck up, just our brains, like our whole being being stuffed into just our heads, when in reality, we have these whole body systems with this whole soul and spirit space, this head space, this gut space, this heart space, and all of it stuffed into from the neck up because we as humans think that that's going to fix everything.
Yeah, right.
And it just makes us feel so cramped.
Yeah, that's a good visual.
Isn't it? Yeah, I thought that was a good visual. You know, I'm not prone to the visuals quite like you are.
Now you're great at it.
But yeah, I just think it's, and I just wanted to bring it up. And like when I brought it up to you just a few minutes before we hit record today, you said, and I thought this was so cute. Like you said, I'm kind of, this is the way that I feel like it is right now. And, I was just sort of like laying out what I was observing, but I wasn't judging and I wasn't emotionally investing in how you are being or not being. I just was like saying, oh, by the way, this is kind of what I noticed. And when you're feeling more in the flow, there's a couple of fun things like projects we should be working on. And you were like, oh, well, oh. And then it started like, we started kind of riffing on it a little bit. And you said, but this isn't because of you. It's not just you, I'm not doing it to you. And I just instinctively said to you, well, I know that. Like, I love you. You're my friend. I know how you are. I'm not taking it personally at all. Yeah. Yeah. Right. And it was just like, but this is what I'm observing. And it was just like, what? I didn't even notice. So sometimes, I don't know, I think just being in partnership with the people that we care about, hopefully these kind of conversations can help us, and everyone listening, like, can help us sort of be okay and not have to create judgment and not get in our heads too much, but just feel our way through that. Yeah. Yeah. And for me, I appreciate you bringing it up. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And I feel like sometimes, like,
like you did it in a great way for me. But for like sometimes if I think like, oh, if I see someone who's kind of struggling in that way,
Mm-hmm.
like I am a little apprehensive and to bring it up, right?
Mm.
Like maybe even to my wife, like, you know, obviously it's the way you would bring it up which should be important, not like, hey, you look like crap. you must be super tired, right? But how do you support people like who you can sense are struggling and maybe not really owning up to it?
You know what I think the biggest thing is like when I said something to you, it didn't dawn on me to take it personally.
Mm.
You know, but how many times do we take it personally?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody's acting a certain way and we immediately go to, oh, I must have done something that offended them. Or what did I do? I didn't do. And there's an instant defense because when we see somebody struggling, we know how horrible that feels.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't want that. We don't want to feel like that. Right. So it's like a little bit of a hot potato situation. But honestly, if people can just say, I've just noticed it doesn't seem like you're feeling like you're normal 100%, you know?
Yep. And enter into that conversation with the right intention, right? We talk about that all the time. Like think about your intention first and then start talking.
And then start talking. Exactly.
All right. Thank you. Well, I'm looking forward to my snowboarding trip coming up and me blowing off a whole ton of meetings and other things.
Let me just make sure I got my Post-it note checklist done and then apologize to your leadership team.
So, all at, and then I'm just going to say, regaining my energy. See you in March.
Amen.
Did you enjoy this episode? Please go to your favorite podcast platform to subscribe, rate, and leave a review so others can discover it as well.
Growing self-awareness is a lifelong journey, and there's always further to go. And it's better when we're all in it together. Please think of someone you know who could benefit from hearing today's conversation and share this episode with them. We can't thank you enough for listening. Until next time, happy exploring, seekers.